And so I want to unpack a couple of things you said there because you went right where I wanted to go. I think you've had 18 wins and 8 losses. Am I about right on that?
I don't know. I've lost count.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure that I'm right about that. And I want to unpack both. I want to talk to you about both because now, guys, we're going to go into life lessons. One thing that you all don't know is that Michelle is a personal development, self-improvement, I don't want to call it addict, but she's involved in that because she understands the power of the mind. She understands the power of her spirit. She works really hard on that. And so many of the people that you've seen on my show, she knows. And so I want to talk a little bit about winning and losing, because this is where everybody can start to connect a little bit. So I want to talk to you first about in these losses. First off, have you ever had a fight that when you took it, you immediately thought, I might lose, I could lose? Have you had a fight like that? And then what's the feeling after an 8-week camp, let's say? You put everything you've got into it, your team's behind you. What are the emotions that you face after a loss? And again, have you ever had one where you're like, I might or will lose this fight? Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
Really? Could you say which fight?
I think the fight that comes to mind the most is the one against Joanna.
Like right when you took it? Look at your face change. Wow.
Oh my God.
Look at your face change. This is good. So right when you took the fight, look at you. Right when you took the fight, there was a fear or I'm not good enough, or what was it? What was that like?
It was kind of, I know I'm good enough. I think more than anything, I put the wrong type of pressure on myself. I put her on this pedestal. She was the longest reigning strawweight champion of the UFC, and still holds that title. She's, and it was kind of like, holy shit, and then, in the same token, I know I could beat her. And if I beat her, then I would be fighting the champ. Mm-hmm. So it was like,
yep,
this is real. Like, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. I have to win this fight,
Mm-hmm.
And it scared the crap out of me.
And what were I'm so thank you for saying that, because again, I relate everything to other things. To me, fighting, the reason I love fighting is I think it's the greatest metaphor for life, both boxing and the UFC. It's you and that other person in the cage. And oftentimes it's you versus you, mentally, emotionally. It's all about your preparation, training, your confidence, your belief, your ability to execute, your fears. I think you really face yourself. When I work with fighters, they're facing themselves. And so when you got in, I think there's a lot of people that are very afraid they're not enough, very afraid they don't have what it takes. And they put the dream or the obstacle that they're chasing on such a pedestal as if it's so unachievable, or people like me don't belong there. And then when you get a little resistance, I want to ask you about that fight. Then when you get the resistance, you're like, oh, I was right. I'm not good enough. And it magnifies. So is there a moment in the fight, maybe even the first round or so, you're like, uh-oh? Or once you went in there, were you just executing? Were you on autopilot?
Let me try to run my mind back to that fight. There was a moment where I lost the reins, and I spent the rest of the fight trying to find him. It was like I lost control, and instead of going plan B, I was like, no, I need plan A, and trying to find the reins that I had already lost. And so that's what I think really happened in the fight against Joanna. It was like I had my mind made up of how I was going to beat her, and it wasn't happening. But I was so stuck in how I envisioned it to be.
Wow.
That, like a CD that skips, it was
yes.
Like, and I couldn't get myself out of it. I couldn't get out of my own way.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite answers in the history of the show. And I'm glad that it took you a minute to find it. You were really working on that, because I think that's another thing that happens. I just want to say this to everybody, that you have in your mind the way it has to go in order for it to work, to make your dream happen, or make a relationship happen. In your mind, you're like, it's got to be this way, these roses, she must treat me that way, or he must do this. And when it varies from this perfect picture you have, it's your ability to improvise oftentimes in life and pivot. So many people right now in their lives are in the middle of this pivot that does separate you. And if you get into that CD that's skipping You keep going, no, it's supposed to go this way. No, it's supposed to go this way. It's not going that way. It's not. So you've got to make an adjustment. Most people that go to become champions in any sport or champions in life, there's all kinds of pivots and adjustments and nuances to it. So you lose. Is the pain of losing greater than the joy of winning, or is the joy of winning greater than the pain of losing for you?
I think that the pain of losing just sticks so much longer. When I win, it's funny because when I win, I think about the pain that I went through to get that victory. Um, and you're so joyous, you're on this incredible high, but your mind probably celebrates it for, depending on the person, 10, 15 seconds, maybe that night. And then, when you win, it's okay, on to the next one. What can we do next?
Yes.
But when you lose, it just sticks with you and it drags you down and it tries to pull you under.
Have you thought about quitting?
No, I've never thought about quitting, but there are times where I want to stick myself in a room and not have to face the music. There are times when I want to not have to explain myself.
Yeah.
But those are just moments. Those are moments that come and go.
You have this amazing ability, Michelle. Like, this is everyone that's not a UFC fan or even an MMA fan. When you listen to her, you find out why everyone roots for her. She's very vulnerable. She's very transparent. She's you. She's one of the few fighters at the top levels that's also a mother. There are others, but she's a mother and she's a wife. And I just think the whole story of you moves people. And I want to talk about these moments. So when you are your most confident, Michelle, where does that come from? In other words, if I'm someone listening, say, I need to generate more confidence, because I see in Michelle, even when she wins, sometimes when you've won, I watch you and I'm already watching you. I think when you're even being interviewed, the things you could have done better, almost sometimes guilty that you've even seen this. Sometimes it looks like almost guilty for the other person feeling bad. I've seen empathy from you for your opponent when you've beaten them. And I can see on your face that that's true as I say it. But when you are your most confident, because I think that's something you really have to work on, especially when I've watched you. If that's true, let me know that. And then where do you get it from? I got to get my confidence up. How do you get it?
I think I was raised that, talk is cheap, actions speak louder than words. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I pull a lot of confidence for putting in the work. Yeah. When I know that I've put in the work day in and day out, that I've had an amazing 8-week camp, even if through injuries, even through this, that I can lay down at night and be honest with myself and know that I put myself through what I needed to win the fight, that I left no stone unturned, that I, went to the hard practices, that I faced my demons. That's when I'm the most confident, and also put in the mental work too. It is like, everybody always says a fight is, only, 20% physical and 80% mental. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just as important to do the mental work as it is to do the physical work. So, when I'm in fight camp, I spend anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours a day working on my mental practice. And I have an amazing mental coach who helps me. And a lot of times it's hard because, my husband is also in my corner and also does a lot of the negotiations for her. So both of us wear different hats. So having to navigate through that, I think, is what gives me the confidence. And just there's just recently, I think for me, what I have been able to embrace and what has given me confidence is that it's okay to enjoy inflicting pain on others, because that is my job.
You just recently came to that conclusion after inflicting tons of bodily harm on other women for the vast majority of your adult life. You just now concluded that it's okay to do that. So I am right. After some fights, you'd have felt guilt, haven't you?
Yeah. And sometimes in the middle of the fight, I have let the fight slip through my fingers because I was winning.
That's incredible. Really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like after doing like some introspective work and trying to break down why I lost that fight, there have been fights like that.
Wow. I love that. I love you. What does some of that mental work look like? Give us some keys, some tips of what some of that mental work in camp looks like. Is it visualization? Is it self-talk? Is it vision boards? What's it look like?
My sports psychologist, his name is William Shannon. So just let me give him a little,
Give 'em a
hey,
shout.
give him a shout. But we work, I think the foundation of our work stems from having power words. And so they're kind of like triggers.
Yep.
So, and, we've been probably working together for, oh God, I'm so hard for me to keep track. I get hit in the head for a living. So we've been working for a good amount of fights. And so we've just built on different power words. Some of them, like one of them is confidence.
Mhm.
One of them is mom champ. One of them is flow. So I have all of these different words, and just because the one word will trigger a whole slew of emotions, a whole slew of combinations, a whole slew of
Yep.
of things. And I think it ties in with the way that Coach Jackson teaches. He's very like conceptual. So he doesn't try to teach you a single move. He tries to teach you a concept, because, if a concept can work when you're fighting standing up, it will also work when you're fighting on the ground, when you're fighting up against a cage, if it's a good concept. And so that's kind of like the same idea with the power words. When I say confidence, when I start to feel myself, when the butterflies start to come up from my stomach, and I start to feel the heat rise above my neck, and I start to get nervous, and I start to get shaky when people start talking about the fights, and instead of getting nervous and uneasy, I tell myself confidence.
Mhm.
And then a lot of things happen, with just that one word. I'm triggering different emotions. I'm triggering myself to be confident. I'm triggering myself to be in control of my breath. I'm triggering myself to be that confident girl that walks into the cage and wins the fight.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and become a part of the Max Out community. And tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and I select winners that get all kinds of prizes, gear, coaching calls with me. Make a comment.